the next fireside chat, the person really needs no introduction. Ronnie, I guess, I saw you very quickly in the morning yesterday. I guess you just popped in yesterday, and left very quickly just because you wanted to show your support to your dear friend Gucho, and not the rest of us. But I've heard Ronnie actually moderate many panels and firesides before, but today we have you on the right side of the seat, actually. So could I invite Mr. Ronnie Chan, Chair of Hang Lung Properties, onto the stage and to be interviewed by Bloomberg correspondent Mr. Stephen Engel.
Sorry, I don't know which side is the right side, so I want Stephen to go first. But he is too Chinese, 客气.
没问题啊. All right. Hello, everybody, and thanks for sticking with it to the final fireside chat here at this wonderful event, of course. And it is, again, as moderator or the host said, no introduction is needed, but I'll give a little bit of one. Ronnie Chan, of course, very well known here in Hong Kong as the chairman of Hang Lung Group and Hang Lung Properties. But, just doing my research and refreshing of my memory of Ronnie Chan, he has his finger in many different things. He, of course, is a noted philanthropist. He has a keen interest in education. He is the former chairman, I believe, of the Hong Kong U.S. Business Council, co-chair of the Asia Society. As I mentioned, the philanthropist as well. And I even, in my search, noticed that it came up Ronnie Chan, comedian. I'm like, Ronnie Chan, comedian? I would not put it past him, but it turns out it was a different Ronnie Chan. But still, maybe we'll get a joke or two from him. Very quickly, I'm Stephen Engel, the Chief North Asia Correspondent for TV on Bloomberg Television. I've been around for 33 years, most of it in Hong Kong, but also 7 years in Beijing, and also Shenyang, where you have a couple of properties, the Palace and something else, I believe. Nice luxury malls up in Shenyang.
66.
The Forum, that's right. I was in Shenyang 33 years ago, and believe me, things have changed in Shenyang and other Chinese cities, as you all know, in those 33 years. We'll talk a little bit about the different dynamics going on in China. We're going to definitely talk about U.S.-China relations and the East-West divide, and also, of course, what's next. What are Ronnie Chan's visions for the future? But first and foremost, let's get to you instead of listening to me yabber on. You mentioned on Bloomberg TV yesterday a term that I used as well that morning, and that is confidence. It's a tough quantity to move a lever of the PBOC and unleash interest rate cuts and unleash stimulus. How do you boost confidence? And China right now needs some confidence. Hong Kong, after 4 very difficult years, needs some confidence. What's the secret sauce for getting confidence unlocked?
The reason for the relative lack of confidence in Hong Kong and the mainland are quite different. I don't think Hong Kong people lack confidence. I think people are still spending money, consuming. It is just that, you have a trauma because of the COVID, as well as the social unrest before that. So, when a lot of things have happened, it takes some time for people to get back to more normality. So I think Hong Kong is well on its way. It is just a little bit of time necessary. I think, conferences such as this one, coming to Hong Kong first time and so forth, I think all these things add up and they all contribute, so it's very good. Mainland is another thing. As we all know, mainland is a hybrid economy. It has the top-down aspect as well as the bottom-up aspect. And ultimately, what the confidence is a matter of the bottom-up. When it's top-down, the government say whatever they want to say, they encourage people to spend, and it's top-down. Whereas the Chinese economy is considerably market economy. And when it's that market economy, confidence becomes very, very important. I am not sure how keenly aware are the mainland Chinese. It's quite loud. Anyway, I don't know how keenly aware are the leaders of Beijing on the significance of confidence. If you operate in the Western market economy, confidence means almost everything. Even if the numbers and the solid hard stuff are not that positive, if people are confident, then people will spend and people will invest. Whereas I think the biggest issue that China faces today is not just the depletion of financial resources because of the spending to fight COVID. That's one issue. But I think another issue is really a combination of events that have caused the man on the street and the private sector business leaders to not be that confident to invest. So that will take some time. The government is doing its best, but let's face it, there are limits to how much anybody can do. And so I suspect that it will take a little bit of time for confidence to come back so that people will not only consume, people are consuming now, but
Is that what you're seeing?
people are not necessarily investing, reinvesting. That's the key.
Right, and cross-border deal-making is dried up as well because of the geopolitics, because of all the other macro situations right now. What are you seeing as you survey your portfolio, which I have the whole list here? You have a lot of luxury mall properties all across China, and this and that, but we do know, you mentioned at the municipal or at the local government level, one reason they can't flood a lot of stimulus into the economy right now because those balance sheets at the municipal or at the local government levels are so decimated by the cost that they had to incur because of COVID-0, and they had to pick up the tab. So what are you seeing as far as land sales and opportunities to pick up, and that would lead to the confidence that you are talking about that is lacking right now?
Of course, COVID is not the only reason why financially they are being challenged. I think the residential real estate sector obviously is part of it. A lot of the dealing with the platform economy, for example, which I support. I think as a matter of principle, Beijing is doing the right thing. But the way they did it leaves a lot to be desired. And I don't think it is what they did only, but how they did it that really takes confidence away.
You mean on the property sector
No,
or
no,
the
no.
simultaneous crackdowns?
On the platform economy.
On the platform economy.
The internet platform economy. How
Sure, on Alibaba and
Right.
others, the anti-monopoly crackdown that launched.
Right. Frankly, a couple of years ago, I told one of the founders of one of the biggest internet platform companies, I asked him, I said, have you guys thought of voluntarily breaking up the company? Because every responsible government will not allow antitrust, will not allow monopoly. And you guys are really in the region of being monopolistic. And so sooner or later, a responsible government, just like the United States broke up many, lithium industry. Before that, you have, the Marbell, and then you have the Standard Oil of California, whatever, right? The government that is responsible will deal with you to make sure that there's competition, the healthy competition. So I told this guy who's a founder of one of the top companies in China, in fact, I'm having dinner with him tonight. I told him, I said, you guys should think about voluntarily breaking up your company. That way, you, the founder, still have some control over the process as well as the outcome. He called me back a couple days later and said, we consider it and we decided not to do it. I said, okay, then you live and die with your own solution. And now they are indeed being forced to divest and so forth.
But you said you were not pleased with how it was taken down, or obviously we do know that it all started with the 11th hour scuppering of the Ant IPO that was supposed to be here and in Shanghai, and it was supposed to be a global listing, as you all know, we all know. And we all know about Jack Ma. I'm not saying the person you talked to was Jack Ma. His last name might have been Ma, a different Ma.
Not a Ma.
Not a Ma, neither of the Ma's. Okay. But anyway, you said that you were not happy with how it was taken down because it destroyed so many job creations and an economy that has been built. That platform economy was a major driver of the Chinese economy. Is that what do you think? I'm not asking you to criticize the Chinese government, but what policies were taken incorrectly with with not seeing the unforeseen consequences?
Stephen, I didn't say that I'm not happy with it.
Okay.
Who the hell am I? I'm nobody. Whether I'm happy, I'm not happy, who cares? All right? It's not a matter of whether I'm happy about it or not, but I think that it's just objectively, does it achieve what you want to achieve? And
Did it?
it achieved something, but then the cost, what is the cost? And the cost is the loss of confidence. And if you have done it slightly differently, I think the impact on the confidence will be much less. So I think this is, on the long haul, good for China, because no one should be overly confident. And if you're a boss, like myself, you become overconfident, it's a bad thing. Same thing with the government. Being overly confident is a bad thing. Every one of us, individual or corporates or institutions, should have a little bit of humility and recognizing that the world out there, including the market, is perhaps bigger than any of us. And so I think the way it can be executed far better, instead of just bang, this is it. I think that in the long haul, it will cause the leaders, and one thing about the Chinese leaders, and that is they learn from mistakes. And I hope that they learn from this mistake, in which case China's economy will have an even brighter future. So I think that, see, I always joke this way. I said, I don't think any of the top government officials have ever bought a stock or a bond in his life. So how on earth do you have the intuitive feel for the market? It is not just knowledge in the head. It is the feel for the market. And by the way, if you're a top government leader, you better not buy a stock, because there will be suspicion of corruption and all that stuff, which is not good for your health.
Boy, Hong Kong knows that feel. They
Right.
know that feel.
Exactly. And so you have to develop that over time. Consider the fact that in the last 30 years, increasingly, the Secretary for the Treasury in the United States are investment bankers. Now, I'm not particularly fond of investment bankers. They serve a social need. I just don't think that they're worth the money they're making. But anyway, and I for one, don't have to, nobody can accuse me of being jealous, because I'm doing okay. So why do you need investment bankers as treasury secretaries? Because they have a feel for the market. Now, China is not a purely market economy, so you don't just need that. You need people who have an overall picture of the country, including the domestic and international arena, but you also need to have some feel for the market so that you can respect it. And I think that is something that is perhaps missing in the Chinese system, and they will figure out a way to address it so that hopefully next time around they will do a better job.
I'm going to give you the rare opportunity to go back on some of those words and court those investment bankers that are obviously watching
That's okay.
Bloomberg
They
TV.
caught
and
me,
this-
don't worry.
They're calling you. I mean, because look at Hong Kong vacancies in Central right now. I think my building where Bloomberg is, Chung Kong Center, has about 25% vacancy. Across the street is the new Henderson Lee Shaoqi's big, beautiful Zaha Hadid's building. It has about 30% tenancy agreement so far. Chung Kong 2, across that street on the other side, we hear has one tenancy agreement so far. So there's record high vacancy in the office central part of Hong Kong right now. A lot of that is because investment banking has been dwindled a bit, and the mainlanders have not come in force as expected. So how are we going to get that confidence back, that Central is the place for banking and investment bankers?
Steve, can we address some more important issues? These are minor issues. So who give a damn?
Does
And by
anyone
the way-
care?
By the way, Henderson and Hong Kong are very, very strong company financially. They are okay. They don't need any sympathy or worry, right? So what the heck? Office rent in Hong Kong is such a minor deal. Come on, Stephen.
Okay, I told you he was a comedian. Okay, then.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah, really? Really? Okay, well, it's Hong Kong's bread and butter, isn't it?
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Okay.
COVID and all that kind of stuff has really altered a lot of things, and it will take time for normality to return. So if in 3 years' time, 4 years' time, those buildings are filled up, it won't surprise me too much.
Okay. So what is the secret sauce for Hong Kong to bounce back? I mean, so much news has been talked about the family money going to Singapore and all that, and I'm not going to get into the age-old, the decades-old argument of Hong Kong versus Singapore, but there has to be an inherent quality that you believe Hong Kong has and will serve it well over the long term.
Most people are very short-sighted, number one. That's a problem. The second thing is they're very emotional. That's another problem. I feel bad for those foolish people who moved out of Hong Kong in the last 3 years. I think most of them will regret this decision within a short period of 1, 2, 3 years. I was with two very senior, very senior Singaporean friends of mine, dear friend of mine whom I respect tremendously. We spent 2 days together in Italy last week, 10 days ago, and they both are of the opinion that the heights, shall I say, of Singapore benefiting from the COVID and the plight of Hong Kong, that's already at the tail end of it. And by the way, Singapore, the government is really brilliant. Brilliant. They're the top brains. And the top brains, they are so smart that they are too smart for their own good often. And they change policies very quickly. And so you go to a place that the government policy can change with a stroke of a pen. And so, it's not a long-term solution. I think the grass is always greener across the fence. And so a lot of people see the ills of Hong Kong, and there's plenty of it. And I, for one, very few businessmen in Hong Kong criticize the local government. I, for one, have been criticizing the Hong Kong government severely. And you ought to hear what I say privately to these guys.
Yeah.
But beyond that, the grass is always greener. You always know your own ill far better than you know the ills of your neighbor.
Right.
And frankly, as I look around the world, and I travel a lot, as you know, the ills of the rest of the world to which people from Hong Kong have wanting to immigrate, I think they have no idea what they are getting into.
Yep.
I was in London not long ago. They have the Hong Kong people who moved, they have no idea. And this is, talking about investment bankers, talking about market, talking about the trend. You are jumping into a sinking boat. Singapore is not sinking, okay? Some other people are sinking. Singapore is doing fine. Other places are sinking fast, and you jump into it. Short-term thinking, emotional, and really very short of knowledge, short of understanding of the world, of many other countries. And so I can sympathize with those people who had a hard time with Hong Kong. I can sympathize with them. But on the other hand, those people, I guarantee you, don't know the ills of the places where they're going to. And I should say, welcome back.
You welcome them back.
But I'm not sure if we should, but anyway, that's another subject.
That's another subject. How are we going to get them back or get that money that might have fled back? I mean, we've heard the grand promises of the Greater Bay. I went over to Macau recently with another reopening of Macau and the beautiful bridge that's going to link Zhuhai and, of course, Guangdong in Macau and Hong Kong. It's underused right now. Obviously, there's border controls and this and that. Do we have to wait until 2047 before we can freely travel around this region that you keep on touting as being one of the biggest per capita GDP areas that will ever be, and a manufacturing hub?
I don't know if it's the biggest per capita GDP, but
Well,
as a
potential
total
to be. Right,
GDP,
right.
it's very, very big. That's true. I think, the GPA will be fine. I don't think there's a whole lot of things to worry about. So, would I bet on this region? You bet I will. Tell me another area, and I will tell you why not. And some of them I may not want to say it public here. You buy me lunch, I will tell you place by place around the world. I just went around the world twice in about 6 weeks. So I've been to a lot of places. And frankly, as I look around, I said there are very few places that are as good a place to invest as in Hong Kong, GBA, and indeed the rest of China.
Okay, I know we're not going to talk about empty skyscrapers. Where does Hong Kong need to improve, though? I mean, we all know there's a disenfranchised youth, a section of disenfranchised youth. Not all of them are, but not everyone can go be investment bankers, or not everyone can.
Thank God.
What does Hong Kong need to do better?
Every government can do far better. Every government. And so you talk about, people moving out and so forth. I grew up in the late 60s and I went to university in the late 60s and early 70s in the United States.
California State?
Yeah, I was in California, yes. Yeah. And those were the days of Vietnam War. And my friends, my classmates, all did three things: free love, drugs, and anti-Vietnam War. Okay? And a whole generation was wiped out. A whole generation. I know people who smoke dope, because most of my classmates, I look into their eyes. Hey, look at me, Stephen. I look into their eyes and I said, that guy had been smoking dope the night before. Yeah. And so a whole generation was gone. In 1974, I entered MBA school at USC. And that was the highest number that my class has the most applicant in a long time. Why? Because the remnants of the anti-Vietnam War era and free love hippie culture, the remnant of it, who did not smoke enough dope to burn their brains, all got into MBA schools. And so for history to see a lost generation, it is a common occurrence. Yeah. It is a common occurrence, sad as it may be. And I have been singing this for the last 20 years. I said Hong Kong young people are now today relying on government handouts. They have a sense of entitlement, right? That's exactly what got a lot of economies in human history, in modern human history, into trouble. And Deng Xiaoping says we should never repeat the over-socialism of Europe. And so I saw the last 25 years, the over-socialistic policies and the spending of the government in social spending went through the roof. When Chris Patten came in 1993, 92, 93, that number went up already. And then after 1997, it went up to the sky. And I said, this is not a good thing. We may be a little bit too stingy in the past, the British were. They want to take money back home instead of spending it locally, I suppose. But it does gender a kind of fighting spirit in the young people. Yeah. There's a future, we want to get better. Of course, 1997, we used to live in borrowed time and borrowed place, but we just never transited it. We jumped from borrowed time, borrowed place to go somewhere else. And that's a big mistake. And so, I'm sorry to say this, that lost generations are nothing new in human history. And there's nothing you can do when a person, in the first 18, 21 years of his or her life, have that mindset ingrained in their head. It's very, very sad. So let's hope that the next generation will not be the same as the last generation. And I'm so glad that I am not in that generation.
Yeah, it takes self-initiative to pull yourself out of that lost generation. I mean, I was born in '66, right in the middle of that. And I have my two eldest brothers both went to Vietnam. One is still a hippie living on a shack on a river. He's almost 80. And the other brother worked part-time with you in Shanghai as an architect. Full disclosure, one of my brothers worked with Ronnie a long time ago.
They did Grand Gateway 66 in Shanghai.
Yeah, so completely opposite directions, but it's up to the individual, obviously. You mentioned socialism, so I got to pivot to China a little bit. What's going to be the answer to get U.S. and China back talking. Blinken's heading there this weekend. That's a good step. What's going to bridge the East-West divide right now?
Nothing.
Nothing. Do we need to bridge it? Do we need an empty bridge to Macau, to the
wish
United
you
States?
can bridge it. We all wish that you can bridge it. But it's far bigger than you and me. When the number one country in the world, America is not the strongest country in the world today. No. America is the strongest country ever mankind has ever seen. And when the United States want to beat up on China, and you try to make that relationship better, you're going against the US government. You think you will succeed? I don't think so. Right? So anybody who look at these small blips, oh, Blinken is going to China. Pardon my French, total B something. You look at what they do. It is not what they say. They just instigated the Canadians to leave to leave the AIIB. Do you think that the Canadian decided on its own? I was in Italy. I was with Mario Monti. We were talking about them leaving the Belt and Road Initiative.
Right.
And do you think that Italy made that decision on its own? You are either naive. If you believe so, then you're either
So you believe the United States has talked about economic coercion coming from China, where China's come back and said it's diplomatic coercion from the United States.
Well,
you've seen it with the friend-shoring, with chip manufacturing going to Japan, going to Germany, going back to the United States. Do you think this is all being driven by coercion by various powers?
I'm going to ask you, Stephen.
I just asked the questions.
I'm asking. My answer is, Steve, what do you think?
I cannot say.
Okay.
This
I
is
don't
not
think
the Stephen Engel fireside chat.
I don't think you're that naive, right, Stephen?
No, I'm not that naive.
Good, thank you. You answer yourself. You answer my question.
So if there is no answer to the East-West divide, where are we going to be in 10 years?
I happen to not be that pessimistic about the U.S.-China relations. First of all, I don't believe that it will get to a kinetic war. Kinetic war, a physical bang, bang, you are dead. Of course, today's war is not just with guns and gunpowders, right? It is very much cyber, it is space, it is currency, right? Of course, trade, many other things. So from that perspective, short of just shooting at each other, the war is already ongoing. Anybody who doesn't know that the war has been ongoing for the last many years is frankly a very, very naive individual. So, we are already in the thick of it.
But can we be competitors without conflict?
Yes, we can, but not if one party wants to make the other side, beat the other side down. I'll give you some numbers.
Sure.
When Japan became 15-20% of the economy of the United States, America began to be worried. And so when it get to 30%, that was 1985 in Plaza Accord, right? Jim Baker pushed the US dollar down and inflated the Japanese yen. The economy took another 10 years for it to begin to wane in Japan. By 1995, 10 years after Plaza Accord, it was at 71% of the United States GDP. But that's because of the currency double, right? So if you take away the currency issue, then it is only 35. What is it today? 21. So Jim Baker succeeded in 1985. Now, let me give you the number of China's economy as a percentage of US economy in the years 1980, right after the economic opening, and then 90, 2000, 2010, 2020, okay? I'll give you those numbers. They are 6 point some, 12. 2000, they were at 12%. They joined WTO, 10 years later, 2010, it was 40%. 2020, it was 71%. And then 2021, it was 76%. And last year, it was still at 76%. You think America will not try to beat you down? Read American history.
Well, sure. I remember in the 80s when the U.S. auto industry came to Reagan and they said, you need to slap tariffs on the Japanese imports because they're killing us. And Reagan turned around and said, build a better car.
Right.
Right?
I wish Reagan is still around to say that. Now, then there's another set of events. 1993, there's a white paper out on Asia Pacific in the United States that says that China was America's #1 enemy. That's 30 years ago, 1993. 1993, the same year, there was the Yinhe incident. You remember the boat, the ship, Yinhe in Indian Ocean, right? And then 1996, it was the Taiwan situation, Taiwan Strait situation, where 2 aircraft carrier outgunned the entire PLA. You wonder how come the PLA has to develop a blue water navy, right? And there's 14 at that time, 14 aircraft carriers, and 2 outgunned the entire PLA. That's 1996. 1999, bomb the Belgrade embassy. 2001, there was the EP-3 spy plane, right? I asked Bob Gates a couple of months ago, I said, how come all these things are happening on the coast of China? What if it's happening in the coast of California and Oregon, right? What will happen? He said, oh, we abide by international law. Okay, so if somebody else abide by the international law also, but they're in the California coast, what would you do? Now, mind you, all those things are military actions. So 93, 96, 99, 2001. And then you have pivot to Asia, you have Donald Trump, right? And then the break point came in 2021, March 18, 19, in Alaska. I won't go into detail because time is up. The young lady is standing there already. So
Nobody wants us to end.
So the China has given up hope. The Alaska meeting. Let me tell you about this Alaska meeting. Why? The key question are 3. Number 1, why Alaska? Number 2, why March? End of March. Number 3, why 2 people showed up? Yang Jiechi and Wang Yi, right? Why both of them? If you cannot answer those 3 questions, you have no idea what the heck is going on. The reason it was in Alaska was because the last meeting was in Hawaii. There's no reason why it should be still on American soil, except that Beijing wanted that meeting. Beijing wanted. Why March? Because Beijing urgently wanted to have an answer. Why number 1 and number 2? For those of you who know anything about Chinese political protocol, they don't send number 1 and number 2 out anytime. Only number 1 and number 3. The only last time I heard was 1997 Hong Kong, the return of Hong Kong, which is a national thing that is so important, so number 1 and number 2 came. So why did Yang Jiechi and Wang Yi both showed up in Alaska? Because they want to know if there's any chance to restore relationship. And we all know what happened in Alaska. It was horrible.
Yeah, it was just they sat across the table from each other and lectured each other.
Well, it started by Blinken. And so the Chinese know all hopes are gone. So what do? If you are a responsible leader, you prepare for the worst, whatever the worst is. From that day on, every decision I believe that are made by Beijing, I'm just an observer, analyst. I have no inside information whatsoever from any source. But even the COVID decisions, I bet you, at the back of the leader's mind is what happened in case there's something that happened militarily or otherwise with the United States that is really undesirable. They were thinking for the worst. And so since 2021, 2021, March 1819, 28, 29th, I think it was, in 1819, before Biden was in the White House in less than 2 months, they urgently want that meeting. And I believe that was the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. And from that point on, all hopes are gone. And if you are still looking at, Blinken is going to China, I said, you don't know what the heck is going on in the world today. I'm sorry. And you journalists always have to worry about what happened yesterday and what happened tomorrow. That's a professional hazard.
Yep.
So I understand that. So I sympathize with you, Stephen.
No, don't sympathize with me. I am one of those who stayed here, and I am confident in Hong Kong's future.
Good.
As you are as
You're
well.
smart.
And,
You're smart.
I have a very extremely confident Hong Kong wife that instills that confidence.
That shows how smart you
fear.
are. It proves how smart you are. Hey, nobody claps for the moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, how about another hand for Steve?
Ladies and gentlemen, a louder applause for Ronnie Chan. That was. Oh, do we have time for questions? All right. I think everyone wants to hear from. I'm keeping you from the cocktails, but yes, there's their microphone for him. I'm sorry, I
This
hogged
is
the microphone.
the climax of the conference. Is really good. I have two children, grew up in Hong Kong, now graduating from U.S. colleges, and if I want to tell them, you should come back to Hong Kong, what should I tell them?
Well, I had lunch with one of my mentees, which is exactly in the same position as your two sons. And frankly, I told my mentee, I'm her mentor, okay? I said, I really feel very comfortable in developing economy. That's where the opportunities are. I was in Egypt, I was in Saudi Arabia, I was in Israel. And so the problem, I think, is that it's very easy for young people to aspire to a more comfortable life, a certain style, a certain culture. It's very appealing to young people. And we all had that dream, our age, if you have children who are now 22, and it's very appealing. But where are the economic opportunities? And in fact, nowadays, it is becoming unsafe to live in many parts of the world. I told you I went around the world twice in the last 6 weeks. And I saw homeless people in tents all over the place in many cities. And anti-Asian sentiment. It is just not safe. I'm not talking about politics. I'm not talking about ideology. I'm talking about personal security. And so I'm very fortunate that my son, when they were young, I took them to developing economies. So my son loves India, for example. And he lived like a local in Beijing when he graduated from university. So I think that the thought, the thinking of many people today still want to send the children to the West. I mean, I feel bad for these people. They have no idea what is there.
Hey, I did okay in the West.
You were born in 1966.
Yeah, and came to Asia in
You're
1990.
You're an old man now. But what about your sons? It is just not safe in many parts of the world. So I think that, for economic opportunities, I would go to developing economies, including China, but not exclusively.
Any other urgents? Okay, we'll give one more, can we? We have time, we have time.
Okay, so by listening to Mr. Chan's talking, so U.S. and China relationship is not a loss in translation; it's more like a loss in hope.
Say that again.
So the U.S. and China relationship sounds like it's not like we are.
No, just move the microphone away from your mouth. Yeah, right there.
All right.
That trick of the trade. Just not too close to the microphone, otherwise it goes like this.
All right. Okay. Yeah. I've been KTV for too long, so that's why. So my question is, U.S. and China relationship sounds like we are not lost in translation, but lost in hope. So basically, we have to prepare for the worst. So what the worst situation could be in foreseeable future? Because recently we see, the military, the naval vessels almost collide in the Taiwan Strait, and this U.S. EP, whatever, the surveillance three plane was kind of so-called harassed by Chinese PLA's jet. So
Well, first of all, why are the spy planes there in the first place?
Right. So are we preparing for the worst of like a military conflict? So in the full scale, like in
Basically, businesses have to prepare for contingencies.
If you are a national leader, you always have to plan for the worst, right? Especially when I stated to you a series of economic numbers and a series of military events, and then if you were in Beijing, in the position, what will you do? And so you have to prepare for the worst, right? And the worst can be anything. But I am hopeful that the Chinese are very rational. Consider the following fact. 10 years ago, it is unimaginable that a junior congressman in the United States can visit Taiwan. Unimaginable. Several months ago, Nancy Pelosi, as the Speaker of the House, went there. What did China do? Nothing. Until she left. She left, you tighten the ring, so to speak, right? Notice that there's no accusation from around the world for what Beijing did. And so people ask me the question, they said, is what's happening in Taiwan Strait today hastening the return of Taiwan or delaying it? I said both. Hastening it in the sense that once there is opportunity for Beijing to do that, given the cost, the international cost, just like that Nancy Pelosi, nobody criticized them, right? You bet Beijing would take it back next time possible. In the old days, Beijing may still think, well, in the long run, are there advantages to us if we wait another 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, right? No more thinking. No, not possible. Next time there's an opportunity, they will take it. So in that sense, it's hastening it. But is it delaying it? Possible. Because of what America is trying to do. It's trying to stir up trouble in China. And China is so far very cool-headed not to fall into that trap. And that is not reacting, not overreacting. But you can also not react. If you not react, you will invite a lot more scorpions and mice and everything else that will come out of the closet. So they have to react, but they have to react in a wise way, like the way they handled the Nancy Pelosi visit. And so I think that I personally am, on balance, when you analyze all the factors that I know of, I came to the conclusion that we should be able to prevent a actual war, but it doesn't mean that economic, and I don't think that China needs to go to war. There's a lot of economic means, a lot of cultural means, a lot of social means. There are many other ways to skin a cat. And so I think that China hasn't really used any of those economic means yet, right? So I think that I'm hopeful. And there's another aspect, another side of it, and that is I do believe that America is forcing itself to withdraw from the global sea. I just came back from the Middle East. I went there 3 times in the last 6 weeks. And both the Egyptian, the Israeli, the Saudi Arabian, the UAE, all tell me that America is no longer a force to contend with in that part of the world. I believe that, I know that I'm being very controversial, but I have my rationale. I don't have time to tell you that in Europe, America will also, sooner or later, retreat from it. The Ukraine war delayed that process, but it cannot reverse that process. So I think that America, and I tell Beijing friends, I said, don't think that the US is waning. It's a very dangerous assumption to make. Okay? America is not waning. America is one of only 2 countries that can choose to close the doors and live. And the other country will live miserably, and that's Russia. The country that can live relatively happily is the United States. Nobody has that right. China needs energy. China needs food security, right? Whereas the United States has everything. And the technology, the universities, the economic system, it is still the most strongest in the world. So if you think that the United States is waning just because they are retreating, you are making a big mistake. And mind you, America was never founded on internationalism. America was founded in isolationism. Monroe Doctrine of 1823, exceptionalism of the 19th century, Roosevelt corollary of 1904, not joining the League of Nations, the trade retreating in the 1920s. America is a country that is rooted in isolationism. So if America, it was only forced out because of World War II. So if America were to retreat back to isolationism to some form or another, what's so new? Read history.
I think another round of applause for Ronnie Chan. Thank you very much.